She was singing to save her sick son, until a Cadillac stopped to hear the song. It was a cold evening, and the wind carried a soft hum across the small, quiet neighborhood. The sun had already dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the empty streets. There, standing under a dim streetlight, was a woman, a mother, clutching her coat tightly around her shivering frame. Her eyes were tired, her body worn from weeks of restless nights, but she sang. Her voice was soft, almost like a lullaby, but it held a strength that seemed to rise from deep within her soul. She sang for her son, a boy no older than 5, who lay sick in their modest home, battling an illness that seemed determined to pull him deeper into its grasp. Her song wasn't just any song. It was one she had sung to him since he was a baby. A melody filled with love, hope, and desperation. It was all she had left, the only thing that brought him even a moment of peace. She sang because, in her heart, she believed that somehow her voice, her love, could reach him where medicine had failed. The few people who passed by didn't pay her much attention. Some threw sympathetic glances her way, while others simply hurried past, eager to escape the biting cold. But she didn't care who was listening. She wasn't singing for them. She was singing for him. Her voice carried with it every ounce of her love, every tear she hadn't yet shed, and every prayer she had whispered in the dark. Then, from a distance, headlights pierced through the misty air, and the low rumble of an engine grew louder. A sleek, black Cadillac slowly rolled down the street, its glossy surface reflecting the dim glow of the streetlights. It seemed out of place here, in this quiet corner of town. As it approached, the car slowed, eventually coming to a stop right in front of her. The window rolled down, and a man leaned out. He was well dressed, his face half hidden by shadows. But there was something in his eyes, an interest, a curiosity. He didn't say anything at first, just listened as her song filled the air. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath, as if even time itself had paused to hear her voice. The mother's voice faltered slightly when she noticed the car, but she kept singing. There was no other choice. She couldn't stop, not when her son's life might depend on it. The man finally spoke, his voice low but clear. "Why are you singing?" he asked. She hesitated for a second, then replied softly, "For my son. He's sick. I don't know what else to do." The man was silent for a moment, his gaze never leaving her. He seemed to be weighing something in his mind, considering, deciding. Then, without another word, the car door opened, and he stepped out into the night. There was something about him, an air of importance, of mystery, that made the mother's heart quicken. Who was he? Why had he stopped? And most importantly, why did he care about her song? The man took a step closer, his eyes studying her face, as if searching for something. "I might be able to help," he said, his voice almost a whisper. The mother's breath caught in her throat. Hope, fragile and fleeting, flickered in her chest. But who was this man? And what could he possibly do to help her son? She wanted to believe him, wanted to grasp onto any chance to save her child. But a part of her remained cautious, unsure. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into the pocket of his coat and pulled out a small, ornate box. He held it up for her to see, but didn't open it. "Your song," he said slowly. "It's more powerful than you know. But there's a price." Her heart raced. A price? What was he talking about? The man's words hung in the air, leaving her both intrigued and terrified. Could this be real? Was this some kind of cruel joke? Or was he offering her something that could actually save her son? Before she could ask more questions, the man held up a hand, silencing her. I can't explain it all here. Not now. But if you want your son to live, you'll need to make a choice. His gaze darkened slightly, as if the weight of what he was offering was more than even he could bear. I'll be back tomorrow. Think carefully. And with that, he turned, got back into his car, and drove away, leaving the mother standing alone in the cold night, her mind racing with questions. She stood there for what felt like an eternity, the fading sound of the Cadillac's engine lingering in the air, until finally she looked down at the street beneath her feet. The soft hum of her song had stopped, and for the first time in weeks, there was silence. The mother didn't know what to do. Could she trust this stranger? Could a song really hold so much power? And what kind of price would she be expected to pay to save her son? As she turned and began walking back toward her home, her mind swirled with fear, hope, and uncertainty. She didn't have long to decide. Tomorrow would come too soon, and with it, the mysterious man's return. But what if he was her only chance? Could she afford to turn him away? And as the door to her home creaked open and she stepped inside, she knew one thing for sure. Whatever happened next would change everything. What would she choose? Could she really risk everything for the chance? To save her son, the answers, whatever they were, would come with the morning light. That night, the mother couldn't sleep. Her mind kept replaying the strange encounter. Over and over, each word the man spoke echoing in her thoughts. Your song is more powerful than you know, but there's a price. What did he mean? How could her song, something that felt so personal, so intimate, hold any power beyond the love she poured into it? The mysterious man and his cryptic words weighed heavily on her heart. Her son, Liam, lay in the small bed next to her, his breathing shallow and labored. His face, usually bright and full of energy, now seemed so fragile, so pale. She had done everything she could. Doctors had given him medicine. Family members had offered prayers, and neighbors had brought soups and remedies. But nothing had worked. Liam was slipping away, and no one could tell her why. It was as if something unseen had a hold on him, something that couldn't be fixed by the usual methods. She turned her head to watch him sleep, her chest tightening with the fear of losing him. How many more nights did they have left together? The thought was unbearable. She whispered a quiet prayer, though her faith was shaky, then found herself humming that same melody she had sung to him earlier. It was instinct now, a way to soothe, not just him, but herself. But the man's words wouldn't leave her. There's a price. What kind of price? And what could she possibly give that would be worth her son's life? The next morning came faster than she'd expected. The sun's pale light filtered through the curtains, casting a gentle glow across the room. She rose carefully, not wanting to disturb Liam's sleep, and moved to the kitchen to prepare something, if for breakfast. But her hands were shaking. Every clatter of a dish, every scrape of a chair against the floor seemed to intensify the growing anxiety inside her. Today, he would come back, the man in the Cadillac. And she still had no idea what she would say to him. As she moved through her day, her mind raced with thoughts. Could the man really help? Or was he toying with her, preying on her desperation? Maybe it was all a cruel trick. But what if it wasn't? What if this stranger truly had the power to save Liam? By the time the afternoon sun began to dip in the sky, casting long shadows across the street, the mother had decided she had no choice. She couldn't let fear of the unknown hold her back. If there was even the smallest chance that this man could help, she had to take it. The minutes dragged on, and as dusk approached, she heard the sound she had been dreading, the low rumble of the Cadillac's engine. Her heart raced as the sleek black car came into view, gliding down the street just as it had the night before. The car stopped in front of her home, and the man stepped out, his expression calm and unreadable. He approached her slowly, his eyes scanning her face, as if searching for something. She stood in the doorway, frozen between hope and fear, unsure of what to say. But he spoke first. "Have you made your decision?" he asked, his voice low but firm. She swallowed hard, her throat dry. "I don't understand. What do you want from me? What's the price?" The man paused, as if choosing his words carefully. "The song you sing," he began. "It comes from a place of deep love. And that kind of love is rare. It carries more weight than you realize. There are forces in this world, ancient, unseen, that respond to that kind of power. But to tap into it, to save your son, you'll need to sacrifice something in return." The mother's heart pounded in her chest. "What kind of sacrifice?" she whispered. The man's gaze darkened slightly, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of something. Regret, perhaps, or sorrow. "It's not something I can take from you," he said slowly. "It's something you have to give. The song. That has the power to save your son. It's also the song that could cost you something precious. Once you sing it with the intention to heal, to truly save him, you'll lose the ability to sing it ever again." She stared at him, confused. I don't understand." "The song," he explained, "is tied to your love for your son. But the more you give to it, the more it takes from you. Once it's used to save him, it will no longer be yours. You won't be able to sing it, hear it, or remember it. It will be gone forever, along with all the memories tied to it." Her breath caught in her throat. She could barely comprehend what he was saying. The song, her connection to Liam, the lullaby that had comforted him through every tear, every illness, would be erased from her life, as if it had never existed. The thought filled her with a deep sadness. Could she really let go of something so important? Could she sacrifice the very thing that made her feel close to him? But then, as if sensing her hesitation, the man stepped closer. "If you don't," he said softly, "your son may not have much time left." Tears welled in her eyes, the weight of the decision crashing down on her. She looked back at her son, sleeping peacefully in his bed, unaware of the storm raging inside her. The man was offering her the chance to save him, to bring him back to health, but at a price that felt unbearable. Could she truly live with herself, knowing she had given up something so personal? Or could she live with herself if she did nothing at all? The air felt heavy, thick with the gravity of the choice she had to make. And as the man waited patiently for her answer, the mother knew that whichever path she chose, her life and Liam's would never be the same again. The mother stood there, her heart heavy with the weight of the decision before her. The man's words echoed in her mind. If she sang the song one last time, with all the love she had, it could save Liam. But in doing so, she would lose the song forever. She would forget it, the melody, the memories, the bond that she had shared with her son through it would vanish. She turned and looked at Liam, his fragile body barely rising and falling with each breath, his pale skin, the dark circles under his eyes. He looked so far from the playful, joyful boy he used to be. Her heart clenched as she realized the harsh truth. She had to choose between the memories of their past and the hope for his future. Tears streamed down her face, but deep down, she knew the answer. She would do anything for him. No price was too high if it meant saving his life. With trembling hands, she reached for the chair by his bedside and sat down. Her voice shook at first, but then she began to sing the melody that had always brought him peace. As the soft, familiar notes filled the room, something incredible happened. Liam's breathing, which had been shallow and weak, began to grow stronger. His eyelids fluttered, and a faint color returned to his cheeks. The mother's voice grew steadier, more powerful, as she poured every ounce of her love into the song. She didn't hold back. This was for her son, and she would give him everything she had. The man stood silently in the doorway, watching as the song worked its magic. The air in the room seemed to shimmer, as if the very walls were holding their breath, waiting for what would happen next. And then, just as the last note left her lips, Liam opened his eyes. Slowly at first, but with a clarity and strength that hadn't been there for weeks. "Mom." His voice was small, but it was him. It was really him. The mother gasped, her heart soaring with relief and joy. She rushed to his side, cradling his face in her hands, unable to stop the flood of tears that fell. He was back. He was okay. Her son was alive. And the sickness that had gripped him for so long was gone. It was like a miracle. But as she held him, something shifted inside her. The song. She couldn't remember it anymore. The melody that had just saved her son was slipping away. Like a dream fading upon waking, she tried to hum it again, to remember the tune, but nothing came. The memory of the song, of every time she had sung it to Liam, was gone. Her heart ached with the loss. It felt like a piece of her had been taken, something that connected her to her son in a way no one else could understand. But as she looked at Liam, smiling at her, alive and healthy, she knew she had made the right choice. The song was gone, but her son was here. That was all that mattered. The man in the Cadillac watched from the doorway for a moment longer, then turned to leave, his job done. He didn't ask for thanks, nor did he explain anything further. He had fulfilled his end of the bargain, and now it was time for him to go. The mother didn't stop him. Her focus was entirely on Liam, who was looking at her with bright, curious eyes. "Are you okay, Mom?" he asked, his voice stronger now. She smiled through her tears and nodded. "I am, sweetheart. I'm perfect." In the days that followed, the memory of the song remained lost. But the mother found peace in the choice she had made. Liam grew stronger with each passing day, and soon it was as if the sickness had never touched him. He was back to playing, laughing, and filling their home with the joy that had once seemed so far away. The mother missed the song at times, especially during quiet moments when she would normally hum it to herself. But whenever she looked at her son, alive and healthy, the sacrifice felt small in comparison to what she had gained. She had saved him. Her love had saved him. And that was enough. Life moved on, and the strange man in the Cadillac was never seen again. The mother didn't know who he was, or why he had chosen to help her. But in the end, it didn't matter. The important thing was that her son was alive, and they had been given a second chance. And while the song may have faded from her memory, the love that had inspired it never would. It was still there, in every smile Liam gave her, in every hug, in every moment they shared. It was a different kind of song now, one that didn't need a melody to be felt. As she watched Liam run and play, the mother reflected on everything that had happened. Life had given her a choice, and though the price had been steep, she had no regrets. She had done what any mother would do for her child. She had given everything, even her most cherished memories, for the chance to see him live. And in the end, that was the only song she needed.